KirTop here, and these are 100 discoveries of archaeologists because of which the world will not be the same. The scariest tribe. Traveler and blogger Daniel Pino caused quite a shock when he posted a video of the Wai tribe from Papua New Guinea. In the video, which has collected more than 17 million views, he shows an encounter with silent tribesmen guarding a sacred waterfall. The Wai people wear costumes made of mud and clay, and their masks resemble spiritual birds with long noses and menacing expressions. They protect the waterfall from strangers, and they are quite scary. However, viewers have doubted the authenticity of the video. Some commenters claim that the scariest tribe would not let a blogger so close. Others joke that their costumes look like fashionable outfits. Despite the controversy, the video has attracted tourists to the region. Travel agencies now list Wai as a tourist destination, offering guests eco-lodges and an introduction to the tribe's culture. What do you think? Is this tribe real, or is it really another way to attract naive tourists? Write your opinion in the comments under the video. Temperature. What is obvious to one is far from obvious to others. Knowing this wisdom, archaeologists and scientists made a joint study of the pyramids. Scientists have discovered an unusual thermal anomaly in one famous building, the Great Pyramid of Cheops. Imagine in a pyramid they found a place of several stone blocks that were hotter by as much as 6 degrees than the rest. This amazing discovery was made by scanning the pyramid with the latest technological advances, including infrared thermography, muon radiography, and 3D reconstruction. Such temperature differences may indicate the presence of cavities or different materials inside the pyramid. It was previously believed that all the stones in the lower row of the Cheops pyramid are the same. However, thermal anomalies were also found in the upper half of the tomb. According to scientists, most likely there are empty areas inside the pyramid. Experts are now looking for them. Perhaps there are new discoveries awaiting for them, but what exactly is hiding behind this thermal anomaly in the Pyramid of Cheops? Afraid to touch it. Imagine that you are sorting through your family's old things and suddenly find a book that was taken from the library back in 1927. This is what happened to Jim Perry from California when he opened a box with the belongings of his dead wife. In the midst of all this junk, Jim found a book called A History of the United States by Benson Lossing. The book looked old, but when he saw the St. Helena Library stamp and the issue date of 1927, he was amazed. He thought that his father-in-law, John McCormick, took the book and did not return it. 96 years have passed since then. Under the old library rules, the late fee was only 5 cents a day, but over that time, the amount has increased to an astronomical $1,756. But don't worry, in 2019, the library eliminated late fees, so Jim didn't have to shell out. Instead, he returned the book to the library, where it can now be seen in a glass case near the entrance. Chris Creighton, the library director who has been there for over 30 years, said it was the oldest book she had ever seen. "I was afraid to touch it," she admitted. "The book was falling apart," she said. "History is literally all around us. Next time you're sorting through old stuff, take a closer look. Who knows what you might find?" Remains of Jesus' brother. A 2,000-year-old ossuary with the inscription, "James, son of Joseph, brother of Jesus," has been discovered in Israel. This has sparked a heated debate. Perhaps the box contained the remains of James the Just, the first bishop of Jerusalem and brother of Jesus. Today, the artifact is on display in Atlanta among 350 ancient relics from the time of Christ. However, its authenticity remains in question. The owner of the ossuary, collector Oded Golan, was accused of forging the inscription, claiming that he added the phrase, "brother of Jesus." But after a multi-year trial, the charges were dropped, although the judge clarified that this does not prove the authenticity of the artifact. If the inscription is real, the ossuary will be the oldest material evidence of the existence of Jesus. In the 1st century, Jews kept the bones of the deceased in limestone boxes, so the discovery of such an ossuary is not surprising. In 2017, another artifact related to him was found, the ancient text, The First Apocalypse of James. It says that Jesus passed on secret knowledge to his brother, including a prediction of his death. This text was banned because it did not correspond to the canonical New Testament. Mystical riddles of ancient Egypt. Since ancient times, the heavens have inspired the Egyptians to create majestic monuments. The astronomical knowledge underlying the construction of the pyramids is amazing in its accuracy and depth. The pyramids of Giza, aligned with amazing precision in accordance with the stars of Orion's belt, testify to the extraordinary knowledge of the ancients in the field of cosmology. Such accuracy gives rise to speculation about possible extraterrestrial influence or even assistance in construction. Various texts, including the pyramid texts, hint at a deep connection between the divine and the cosmic, suggesting that knowledge may have been passed down to humans from more advanced civilizations. The complexity and sophistication of ancient Egyptian architectural and engineering achievements, such as the ventilation systems inside the pyramids and the acoustics in the temples, raises admiration and many questions. How were the ancient Egyptians able to so precisely craft and set multi-ton stone blocks without any visible modern technology? Some argue that such knowledge could have been gained from the gods who, according to myth, visited Earth sharing their technology. These speculations are fueled by discoveries of unusually accurate star charts, surgical instruments, and other items indicating a high level of scientific and technological development. The discovery of artifacts with images resembling modern aircraft and complex mechanisms adds to the mystery of Egyptian history. For example, reliefs depicting objects resembling helicopters and submarines are controversial among scientists. Perhaps the ancient Egyptians were inspired by visions of the future or used artifacts left behind by more advanced civilizations as prototypes to create their own technologies. There is a theory that the ancient Egyptians had knowledge far ahead of their time, including the secrets of eternal life, methods of treating diseases that were incurable at that time, and ways to generate energy. This knowledge may have been lost over the centuries, leaving behind only hints and references in religious texts and myths. The discovery of medical instruments, astronomical knowledge, and chemical compounds used in mummification supports the idea that the ancient Egyptians had advanced knowledge. Imagine for a moment that an artifact was found in the depths of the Great Pyramid, indicating contact with an ancient civilization with technologies far superior to our own. The discovery of such a crystal, perhaps emitting an unknown type of energy, could revolutionize our understanding of history, science, and the very nature of reality. This hypothetical scenario embodies humanity's eternal quest beyond the known to discover lost knowledge that could change the world. Tomb of the Magician. In Saqqara, the necropolis of ancient Memphis, archaeologists have discovered the tomb of the royal physician Teti Nebfu, who lived about 4,000 years ago. According to the surviving inscriptions on the walls and sarcophagus, it has been established that he served under the pharaoh Pepi II and held many titles: Chief Physician of the Palace, Chief Dentist, Director of Medicinal Plants, Priest and Magician of the goddess Selket. Since Selket patronized dangerous creatures with poison, scientists believe that Teti Nebfu knew how to treat poisonous bites. Despite the fact that the tomb was partially looted, its walls have been preserved in excellent condition and are decorated with bright paintings, scenes of offerings, a false door, ritual images. In addition to royal burials, burials of royal officials, including associates and servants of Pepi II, were previously found in Saqqara. Recently, several stone sarcophagi with hieroglyphs dedicated to the gods of Upper and Lower Egypt were also excavated there. According to experts, the splendor of Teti Nebfu's final resting place speaks to the high status of healing and magic at that time. The Egyptians had deep knowledge of anatomy, knew how to treat serious illnesses, and considered words and rituals to be as important as medicines. Memorial marks on the bricks of history. The Mehrangarh Fort in Jodhpur is one of the most majestic structures in India, but its beauty hides dark pages of history. On the inner gate of Loha Pole, 15 imprints of women's hands are still visible, silent witnesses to the tragic tradition of sati. Sati is an ancient Hindu ritual according to which widows were supposed to burn on the funeral pyre of their husbands. Sometimes women did this voluntarily, but more often they were forced. This practice was officially banned by the British in 1829, but in India it continued until the 20th century. In 1843, after the death of Maharaja Man Singh, his wives left handprints on the wall before stepping into the fire. However, this is not the only case in the history of the fort. In 1731, 6 wives and 58 concubines of Maharaja Ajit Singh also committed suicide in the flames. Tragedies have been going on since the fort's foundation. In the 15th century, Saint Chidyawale Baba cursed Rao Yoda, saying his land would suffer from perpetual drought. To lift the curse, the king ordered a resident of Megwal, Rajaram, to be walled up alive within the fort's walls. But the curse still seems to be in effect. Maharajas have died here, tourists have fallen, and in 2008, hundreds were killed or injured during a stampede at the Chamunda Devi temple. Egyptian tools. In Egypt, traces of sawing stones were found that were discovered more than 100 years ago. It was the legendary pyramid explorer Sir William Flinders Petrie. He noticed these traces even on the sarcophagus in the Great Pyramid on the Giza Plateau. He suggested that the sarcophagus was carved from granite using huge saws 3 meters long. Saw marks can also be found throughout Egypt, for example. There are temple ruins near the Great Pyramid. Numerous traces of sawing have been preserved on the stone floor there. At the beginning of the 20th century, German archaeologists even deliberately put blocks with saw marks on public display during the restoration of the temple. Historians suggest that in ancient times the Egyptians used copper saws. And since copper is softer than granite and basalt, it is assumed that the Egyptians used quartz sand as an abrasive. Faces on stone. A drought in the Brazilian region has caused water levels in the Amazon River to reach record lows, leading to the discovery of faces and other figures engraved on ancient stone that is more than 2,000 years old. These petroglyphs, including images of animals and other natural forms, were found on the banks of the Rio Negro at an archaeological site known as Ponto das Lajes, Place of the Slabs. Researchers estimate that the paintings are between 1,000 and 2,000 years old. The stones, in addition to images of faces and water, also have grooves, indicating that the site was used to create stone tools. Archaeologists discovered 25 groups of engravings on one rock. The find indicates that this place was used for sharpening various tools. In addition, fragments of ceramics were found at this site. Although Ponto das Lajes is recognized as an archaeological site, the petroglyphs have not yet been studied. What other secrets do you think the Amazon is hiding? Share your thoughts in the comments. A man out of time. Michel Siffre became a pioneer in the study of time and the work of the human mind. His experiments amazed scientists so much that even NASA used his results. In 1962, 23-year-old Siffre spent 2 months in complete isolation in a cave, refusing watches and sunlight. He wanted to find out how the body perceives time without external reference points. It turned out that a person outside the usual 24-hour cycle switches to a 48-hour rhythm and time is felt differently. 5 minutes seem like 2. 10 years later, he repeated the experiment, spending 6 months in a Texas cave. His discoveries became the basis of chronobiology and helped in the preparation of astronauts for long missions. Tutankhamun was not disabled. Today we have on our agenda one of the most mysterious pharaohs of ancient Egypt, Tutankhamun. Many of you have probably heard that Tutankhamun was a weak and sick boy who had difficulty moving due to bone diseases. But recent research and reconstruction of his face has led us to a startling discovery. That may not be the case at all. When archaeologists opened Tutankhamun's tomb, they found 130 sticks that they thought helped him move. But Egyptologists at the Cheltenham Science Festival are now arguing that this may have been an incorrect assumption. Imagine, the so-called clubfoot could be the result of the mummification process itself. What we thought were signs of weakness could actually be distortions caused by resin and tight bandaging. Sophia Aziz, a mummy researcher, is sure that in fact there is no evidence that Tutankhamun was disabled. Those sticks that were found on him could just be a symbol of his royalty. And although the mummy of Tutankhamun is missing one toe on his left foot, scientists suggest that it could have been lost in the process of moving the body or even taken as a souvenir. And these canes that were found on him were not assistants in movement, but status symbols. They depict his enemies, which gives us reason to think that Tutankhamun was not a wimp, but a battle-hardened warrior. Since the discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb in 1922, scientists have continued to explore its contents, and each time they make more and more new discoveries. Today we know that Tutankhamun ascended the throne in 1336 BC when he was only 9 years old and died at 19. But he was not just a pharaoh, he was a warrior. Leather armor and weapons were found in his tomb, which confirms this fact. and how many more such discoveries await us we can only guess. Increasingly, archaeologists are studying the same find again, and it turns out that the previous conclusions were completely false. Until that time, many films and cartoons were shot in which Tutankhamun was depicted as a disabled person, but what now? Is it worth trusting archaeologists after that? Write your opinion in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Pyramid of the oldest civilization. The Norte Chico culture, also known as Caral soup, is considered one of the oldest and most advanced civilizations of the Andes. It existed about 5,000 years ago and achieved significant advances in architecture, agriculture, and social organization. Archaeologists recently discovered a pyramidal structure about a kilometer from the sacred city of Caral soup in the Soup Valley, Peru. The structure is a quadrangular building with a wide staircase leading to the top. Its walls are decorated with massive vertical stones, huancas, which may have had not only structural but also ritual significance. In addition to the pyramid, the researchers found 12 public and ceremonial buildings located around a central plaza of almost 39 hectares. This indicates the existence of a small urban center with administrative and religious functions. 3 platforms were identified in the pyramid, which indicates a complex architectural tradition of the Caral civilization. At the Chupatsigaro site, archaeologists also discovered a unique geoglyph, made in the Sechina style. It depicts a human profile and is likely associated with rituals reflecting access to the region's marine and agricultural resources. Are these finds really 300 million years old? From time to time, miners find strange artifacts in coal seams that appear to have been created by intelligent beings. This poses some awkward questions for science since the age of these rocks is estimated at 300 million years. How could objects that were clearly made by hand get there? After all, at that time, the Earth was inhabited only by giant insects and the first reptiles, and there was no talk of people, dinosaurs, or even advanced technologies. However, the finds continue to amaze us. In 1912, an iron pot was extracted from a coal seam in Oklahoma, and in 1851, a zinc and silver vase was discovered in Massachusetts, the rock of which is 534 million years old. A metal rod similar to a rack made of aluminum with an admixture of magnesium was found in Russia. Its origin is even more mysterious. Aluminum was discovered only in 1825, and the age of the coal in which it was found exceeds 300 million years. Scientists have found that the metal is saturated with carbon, which confirms its incredible age. But if so, who made it? Some believe that these finds are traces of a vanished civilization that existed long before us, but was wiped off the face of the planet by a global cataclysm. Others suggest that the objects could have been left by aliens or even time travelers. Skeptics, in turn, are sure that this is a hoax or dating error. There is also a theory that coal was formed not millions but only a few thousand years ago under the influence of deep gases and pressure. If so, then the artifacts may not be so ancient at all. New secrets of Egyptian funeral practices. For the first time, scientists have conducted a detailed analysis of the pink and white paste used to seal coffins in ancient Egypt. The study has shown that these substances had different compositions and performed different functions. One of the first samples studied was the coffin of Pakapu, a priest and keeper of burials in Thebes who lived about 2,700 years ago. His wooden coffin, stored in the Fitzwilliam Museum at Cambridge University, consisted of 2 parts, an inner and an intermediate coffin sealed with special compounds. Analysis showed that the pink paste was used to fill structural gaps and the white served as a base for painting. Interestingly, a layer resembling paper mache was found in the inner coffin, a multi-layered composition of linen and plaster, similar to those used for burial masks and mummy shells. The main component of both pastes was calcite, obtained by grinding limestone. However, the inner coffin used a pure material which confirms the special attention paid to the structure that was in direct contact with the body. The pink paste, containing iron impurities, was coarser and served technical purposes. Its granular structure helped prevent shrinkage when drying. The diversity of compositions indicates that different craftsmen worked on the coffin, each using their own method. Pristine tomb. Just 30 kilometers from Cairo, archaeologists have found an ancient, intact tomb which is already 4,400 years old. This amazing discovery was made in the famous Saqqara necropolis. The tomb was built for a high-ranking priest who served with the pharaoh of the 5th dynasty and his family. One can understand that his life was full. The walls depict people who make wine, play musical instruments, sail in boats, and hunt. The building of the tomb is amazing. Its interior is decorated with large painted statues and impressive inscriptions that reveal the names of the wife and mother of the priest. Archaeologists have already begun to explore the 5 burial shafts inside the tomb, and we have yet to learn much about ancient life in Egypt. A girl was infected with a medieval curse. Do you think it is possible to literally be transported back to the Middle Ages in the modern world? And now we are not talking about a reenactors festival, but about a truly creepy phenomenon. In the Middle Ages, people suffered from a mysterious disease, St. Anthony's fire, also known as witch's cramps. The symptoms were horrific: convulsions, bloody vomiting, psychosis, and in severe cases, gangrene of the limbs. The infected were often considered to be possessed by demons. In fact, the cause was banal: poisoning with ergot, a parasitic fungus that affects rye. Bread from contaminated grain caused mass epidemics throughout Europe and even in Russia. The last major case was recorded in 1951 in France, when 250 people fell ill and 4 died. It seemed that the disease was a thing of the past, but recently an American girl felt a strong burning sensation in her legs. Doctors were perplexed. The tissues of her limbs began to die. Only after long studies, it was discovered that she had been poisoned by ergot, catching a real greeting from the Middle Ages. Modern technologies have almost eliminated such cases, but as we see, history can repeat itself. Incredible discovery under the Nile. Archaeologists have made an amazing discovery under the Nile in the Aswan area, a collection of ancient Egyptian artifacts and rock carvings dating back to the era when the city experienced a massive flood. The relics date back to the reigns of pharaohs such as Amenhotep III, Thutmose IV, and Psammetichus II. Aswan, about 4,500 years ago, was an important trading and military center. Gold, wood, and spices were exchanged here, and local granite quarries supplied materials for the construction of temples, obelisks, and pyramids. However, after the construction of the Aswan Dam, most of the city was underwater. A Franco-Egyptian archaeological mission discovered unique rock reliefs depicting pharaohs, hieroglyphic inscriptions, and other sculptural elements. The work was carried out using modern technologies such as underwater scanning, photogrammetry, and 3D modeling. These methods allowed us to document the artifacts we found in detail and create digital copies of them. Of particular interest are the images of Amenhotep III, who ruled Egypt for about 40 years and left a rich legacy. His burial place was in the Theban necropolis on the west bank of the Nile, opposite modern Luxor. Unfortunately, many monuments associated with his era were damaged by floods, but the new find gives hope for the restoration of these historical relics. Mermaid from India. Not many people have heard of the archaeological site of Chandraketugarh in India, which is located about 35 kilometers from Kolkata. Chandraketugarh was a prosperous port city involved in international trade where people lived since 400 BC before 1250 AD. Today, only the ruins of a brick Buddhist temple from the 10th century remain on this site. Interest in Chandraketugarh arose due to the many terracotta artifacts dating back to the Shunga period, that is 200–100 BC. Most of them were stolen and taken abroad, and only a few fragments survived in Indian museums. Although the complex was discovered in 1906, the Archaeological Survey of India, under British control, did not carry out excavations here. Many of the stolen items are now in museums around the world, such as the Metropolitan. 2 terracotta plates depict a mermaid, a rather rare image in Indian culture. In one, a mermaid swims by a lake, holding something that looks like a mirror or a flower. People on the shore look at her as if she was a miracle. The great chief arrived in a chariot to see this creature. On another, a mermaid was caught in a net by fishermen. People wave at her and she answers them without showing any fear. Looking at these reliefs, I wondered, are they not a reflection of ancient legends or real events that took place in Chandraketugarh 2,200 years ago? Perhaps mermaids were not a figment of the imagination, but real sea creatures in ancient times? Write in the comments under the video. Do you believe in the existence of mermaids or something similar? It's no wonder that the depths of the seas and oceans have not yet been explored. The mystery of the Herculaneum Scroll. Thanks to artificial intelligence and advanced X-ray technology, scientists have managed to decipher the text of one of the ancient Herculaneum scrolls for the first time. These unique artifacts, which survived the eruption of Mount Vesuvius in 79 AD, remained a mystery for almost 2,000 years. The scrolls were discovered in the 1750s among the ruins of a Roman villa. However, after the disaster, they turned into charred, fragile rolls that cannot be unrolled without breaking. Most of them are stored in the National Library of Naples, and a few copies are in Oxford. In 2023, the Vesuvius Challenge was launched to find technologies to decipher these texts. Recently, researchers announced a major breakthrough. Using high-energy X-ray scanning and AI algorithms, they managed to create the first image of the inside of the Oxford Scroll. Scientists have already identified several words, one of which is the Greek for disgust. Although the text is still fragmentary, the method continues to improve. There are more than 1,000 such scrolls in Naples, and now researchers have hope of deciphering them. The secret of Orion. Have you ever wondered why many ancient monuments look towards the constellation Orion? Did the gods really come to our land from there, from a distant space? Incredible, but true. Our ancestors left us a whole system of signs pointing to Orion. They created architectural masterpieces, elaborate calendars, and observation posts that allowed them to track the position of the stars in the sky. Orion was one of the most popular constellations among the ancients. Its image was even found on a mammoth tusk dated 32,500 BC. Studying the ancient sanctuaries on the Kola Peninsula, scientists noticed an interesting detail. If you connect the finds with conditional lines on the map, you get the constellation of Orion. And this can no longer be a coincidence. Orion seems to be everywhere. There is no such place on Earth where it would not be met. Egypt, Mexico, ancient Babylon, ancient Russes. Everywhere it played an important role, becoming the center of heavenly space. Probably the matter is in the principle as above, so below. The ancient Egyptians built their pyramids, focusing on Orion as if creating an earthly map of this constellation. And even 3 large volcanoes on Mars together form the Belt of Orion. Just a coincidence or a trace of a cosmic connection? And also representatives of the ancient Egyptian civilization believed that their gods descended from Orion and Sirius. The Holy Grail of the Nazis. This artifact has become increasingly popular over time, especially in the context of research into the esoteric beliefs of the Nazi regime. It is true that a number of senior Nazi leaders, including Himmler, were interested in the occult and mystical traditions. However, it is necessary to understand that most of the information on this topic is based on myths and guesses. However, there is a version that the Nazis were actually looking for the Holy Grail in the hope of using its mythical properties for their own purposes. In combination with archaeological expeditions organized by the Ahnenerbe SS Research Institute, this version becomes even more interesting. Some historians claim that one of the goals of Nazi expeditions to Tibet and other regions was to search for relics, including the Grail. However, there is no clear evidence for this. There is also an opinion that the Grail could be located in southern France, in the Cathar region, and that the Nazis carried out excavations there. This myth has been further inflated by popular culture, especially movies and books. A number of works depict Nazis pursuing sacred relics, including the Grail, to gain supernatural power or justify their ideology. Scientific and historical research on the topic proves that while the Nazis were indeed interested in the occult and mysticism, most of these claims are based on myth. However, the idea that the Nazis may have been searching for the Holy Grail has become one of the most recognizable and disturbing themes in modern pop culture. The real truth about the woolly mammoth. Mammoths are always associated with the Ice Age, endless tundra steppes, and primitive hunters fighting for survival. But behind the legendary image lies the reality that the woolly mammoth was not the largest or even the first to conquer America. The growth of the woolly mammoth reached 3.5 meters, but the African elephant is taller, up to 4 meters. And among its relatives, it was inferior in size. Columbian, imperial, and steppe mammoths reached 5 meters and weighed up to 13 tons. However, the woolly mammoth surpassed them in the width and density of wool, which made its survival in glacial conditions more successful. In addition, it was not a pioneer in America. Before it, southern mammoths and their descendants, Columbian mammoths, already already lived there. The woolly mammoth could not displace them and remained only in the northern territories. But despite all this, it was the most numerous and influential species. Its population numbered in the tens of thousands, and its habitat stretched from the Arctic Ocean to Mexico. Even after they died out, mammoths left a huge mark on history. Hundreds of thousands of tons of their remains are still preserved in permafrost, and their tusks were used in trade even more than African ivory. Secret rooms. So what could be hiding inside the pyramids? There are many theories here, from religious objects and treasures to ancient scrolls full of knowledge, and some are even sure that artifacts of space gods can be hidden in the recesses of the Egyptian pyramids. Remember the story of the 90s when a robot descending into one of the shafts came across mysterious doors? The great scientists of antiquity, the Greeks and Romans, were delighted with the skill of the builders of the pyramids, and medieval Arabic chroniclers such as al-Masudi and al-Idrisi wrote about miracles, gold, and mummies that might have been found inside. But not all scientists agree that the pyramids served only as tombs. Supporters of alternative history argue that the Great Pyramid could be a time capsule, a repository of knowledge of an ancient civilization that became the basis of ancient Egypt. And there is an even more exotic theory from Christopher Dunn, who suggested that the Great Pyramid could be nothing more than a power station. And don't forget about the Chamber of Records, the legendary ancient library, where, according to some researchers, all the knowledge of the ancients is stored, capable of shaking the foundations of our understanding of the world. Golden Diana. The next story is about an amazing woman who was so beautiful and attractive that she captured the heart of the French King Henry II himself. Her name is Diane de Poitiers. Imagine Diana was 20 years older than the king, but despite this, Henry was devoted to her for 2 decades. He literally carried her in his arms, gave gifts, and built palaces. Even after his death and exile from the royal court, Diana retained her beauty and elegance, which many young court women could only envy. The woman carefully looked after herself. She wore a sun mask, ate right, devoted a lot of time to horseback riding, and of course used all the possibilities of cosmetology of that time. And so in 2009, scientists decided to penetrate the secret of Diana's beauty and analyzed a strand of her hair. The results of the analysis were simply amazing. Scientists have found that the content of gold in the body of Diana was 250 times higher than normal. How did this happen? This can be partly explained by the fact that the aristocrats of that time often used gold in their daily lives. They ate from gold utensils, wore gold jewelry, and used cosmetics with gold. But there was something else. In the old archives, there are records of the golden drink that the Parisian alchemists made especially for Diana. This elixir of beauty and youth included gold foil, lemon juice, wine, and other ingredients that were supposed to act as a slow-acting poison. In the portraits of Diana, her skin looks white as porcelain, which is most likely the result of anemia due to the constant use of this beauty drink. But despite this, Diana not only retained her beauty, but also lived to be 67 years old, while the average life expectancy for women was only about 33 years. It seems that Diana had another secret that is still a mystery to modern science. So if you ever come across a golden drink, think twice before trying it. Ancient necropolis of the Persian kings. Here is one of the most impressive bas-reliefs of ancient Persia, a depiction of the victory of Shahanshah Shapur I over the Roman Emperor Valerian. This monument is located in Nakhche-Rustam, the ancient necropolis of the Persian kings in Iran. In the bas-relief, Shapur I is sitting on a horse in luxurious armor, and Philip the Arab, the Roman emperor who made peace with the Persians, is kneeling before him. But most importantly, he is holding the hand of the captured Valerian. This was the only case in history when a Roman emperor was captured. After his defeat at the Battle of Edessa in 260, Valerian was never able to return. According to different versions, he died in captivity or was killed. This bas-relief is not just a historical monument, but a symbol of the greatness of the Persian Empire. He reminded everyone who passed by that the Romans, the main power of the time, had suffered a humiliating defeat. Voids. Scientists want to make an ultrasound of a huge pyramid 140 meters high. They plan to use large telescopes to search for particles that will help us see what is hidden inside. The most interesting thing is that cosmic rays are used for this. It is they who can reveal the secret of two mysterious voids inside the pyramid. One of them is located directly above the large passage leading to the king's chamber. Its dimensions are amazing, 30 meters in length and 6 in height. Scientists are not yet sure what awaits us inside, one large space or a series of small rooms. This may be the hidden burial chamber of Cheops, or this place played an important role during the construction of the pyramid. To solve this riddle, muons are used, elementary particles that are formed when cosmic rays collide with atoms in the Earth's atmosphere. With their help, we could build a map of voids inside the pyramid. Muons behave differently when interacting with different materials, such as rock or air. Thus, scientists can use muons to see what is not available to ordinary vision. Stone phallus in Spain. Get ready for a fascinating story about how archaeologists in Spain discovered a secret item of warriors of the past, which at first surprised researchers. I'm talking about a stone penis that turned out to be a grindstone. Archaeologists were at the excavations near the Mira Tower in the city of Rio de Vigo. This tower was demolished in 1476 during the Irmandino Rebellion, when the peasants rebelled against the Spanish aristocracy. But here's the interesting thing. They came across a stone 15 centimeters long, which, as I said, was in the shape of a penis. In general, such a phallic image is often found in prehistoric symbolism, but is rarely found in artifacts of the Middle Ages. So the researchers were surprised. And then it turns out that this stone is not just a stone. It was a grindstone used to sharpen weapons before battles during the Irmandino uprising. After all, not only modern people love everything stylish and with humor, our ancestors were also not without a sense of humor. The researchers note that the stone reflects the symbolic connection between violence, weapons, and masculinity. The smell of Egyptian mummies. Scientists have studied the smells of ancient Egyptian mummies for the first time, revealing unexpected details about the embalming process. The analysis showed that the mummies exude woody, spicy, and sweet aromas associated with the use of natural preservatives. The researchers studied 9 mummies, ranging in age from the New Kingdom to the Byzantine period. Using gas chromatography and mass spectrometry, they determined the composition of the embalming substances: pine, cedar, and juniper resins, myrrh, frankincense, spices, herbs, vegetable oils, animal fat, and wax. According to experts, the discovery will help preserve ancient artifacts and also open up new opportunities for museums. Now visitors will be able to not only see, but also smell ancient Egypt, immersing themselves in the atmosphere of that era. Smells played an important role in the rituals of the Egyptians. A pleasant aroma symbolized divinity and purity, while a foul odor was associated with decay and impurity. Even after 5,000 years, mummies retained incense, emphasizing the importance of this aspect in ancient culture. Signs of extraterrestrial visitors. Now we come to one of the most controversial pyramid theories. It is believed that aliens helped build the pyramids. In the 60s and 70s of the last century, this assumption became popular thanks to the book by Erich von Däniken, Chariots of the Gods. He said that extraterrestrial beings came to Earth a long time ago and helped build the majestic pyramids. Why do we think so? First, the builders of the pyramids cut and set stone blocks with extraordinary precision. Some believe that such work would not have been possible without the futuristic technology that aliens could provide. Secondly, the pyramids seem to be placed according to special astronomical schemes. For example, the sides of the Great Pyramid of Khufu align perfectly with the cardinal points of the compass. Some even suggest that this was done on purpose to serve as a beacon for incoming alien spacecraft. However, many scientists want to see evidence. They claim that there is no evidence of the arrival of aliens on Earth, and everything in the pyramids can be explained by Earth technology. The ancient Egyptians used giant ramps to carry stone blocks to the top of the pyramid. It may sound primitive, but the effectiveness of this method is undeniable. At the moment, there is no evidence confirming the coming of aliens, and although the pyramids remain one of the most amazing wonders of the world, most likely they were created exclusively by earthly hands and minds. Perhaps someday all the artifacts will form a new picture of the past, and there will no longer be unexplored secrets in history. The mystery of the invention of one device. This is the story of Samuel Morse and his amazing Morse code, which is a unique code of dots and dashes. Morse was not just an inventor. There was a period in his life when he was a famous portrait painter, creating masterpieces and making money on portraits of influential personalities. Through this, he saved up enough money to marry the woman he loved, Lucretia Walker, and they had 3 wonderful children. But life has prepared for him a severe test. In 1825, while in Washington, Samuel received a letter from his father. The letter stated that Lucretia had suffered a heart attack. Samuel raced home to New Haven, but it was too late. Lucretia was buried before his arrival. This tragedy made him think, what if the letter was delivered not by a courier who traveled for several days, but by a technical device that would be much faster? Maybe then he would have had time to say the last sorry to his beloved. From that moment on, painting faded into the background, and Morse plunged into the study of ways to quickly transmit information over a distance. So after many years of hard work, the world saw the Morse electromagnetic telegraph and its unique alphabet, consisting of dots and dashes. Morse code is not commonly used today. However, sailors, radio amateurs, and history buffs still use it. And while it may seem a bit out of date now, the impact it has had on technology and society has been incredibly important. This is a reminder of how a personal tragedy can become an engine of progress and change the world. Turned out not to be a man. In Jerusalem, archaeologists made an unexpected discovery while studying the burial place of an ascetic monk. It turned out that the remains belonged to a woman, which is not typical for monastic practices of that time. The grave was found in Khirbat el-Masan, where a Byzantine monastery was located in the 4th, the 7th centuries AD. Around the skeleton lay heavy iron shackles about 10 centimeters in diameter, which led scientists to initially assume that the deceased was a man. However, an analysis of the tooth enamel confirmed that it was a woman. This fact turns the idea of asceticism in the Byzantine Empire upside down. Although there are written sources about female ascetics such as Melania the Elder and Melania the Roman, archaeological evidence of such practices is extremely rare. Iron shackles indicate extreme forms of self-restraint in the search for spiritual perfection. Until now, it was believed that such practices were exclusively male. The monastery was located on the pilgrimage route to Jerusalem, making it an important center not only for prayer but also a refuge for travelers. The discovery of this burial suggests that women played a more significant role in monastic communities than previously thought. Mysterious accessory from the future. Archaeologists have discovered wall carvings depicting objects similar to modern handbags. Some of these images are about 12,000 years old. The earliest were found in Turkey in the ruins of the megalithic temple of Göbekli Tepe, where strange images are engraved on the columns of the ancient temple. Similar motifs have been discovered in Mexico, Iraq, and South America, raising many questions about the possible use of such objects by ancient civilizations. Although the images resemble handbags or clutches, experts believe the ancient ruins are more likely to depict baskets. Some believe that the concept of a handbag may have been invented by ancient civilizations. The first modern bag appeared in 1841 in England, created by Samuel Parkinson. The problem is that the Göbekli Tepe temple was built in 9000 BC, and its builders could hardly have known about such an accessory. Another ancient example of a handbag was found in ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs written about 5,000 years ago, where the gods hold a small square object symbolizing prosperity. Archaeologists have indeed found remains of baskets and tool bags used by the ancient Egyptians, but they cannot yet say for sure what is depicted in the hieroglyphs. Similar discoveries were made in Iraq, among the ruins of an Assyrian palace built between 883 and 859 BC, which depicts a genie with wings holding what appears to be a handbag. Historian David Miano believes that these figures, called Apkallu, were minor deities who carried water buckets made from sacred date palms rather than purses. Ancient buckets similar to the engravings were actually found in Iraq. Similar motifs have also been found in Mexico among Toltec ruins, where giant statues hold objects resembling handbags. These statues were created around 750 AD. Russian pyramids. If you haven't seen it in person, you've probably heard about the greatness of the Egyptian pyramids on the Giza Plateau. This architectural ensemble, which has delighted the world with its splendor for centuries, is considered one of the most monumental. But Russian researchers have proposed an alternative, pointing to the existence of even older pyramids in Russia, covering areas from the Kola Peninsula to the Black Sea. The first discovery of such pyramidal structures occurred on the Kola Peninsula in 2001. The dating of which indicated an age twice that of the Egyptian counterparts. Subsequent discoveries confirmed the artificial origin of these pyramids, built between 9,000 and 40,000 years ago. In 2010, researchers discovered another ancient pyramid, indicating similar construction techniques to Egyptian and Chinese structures. In the Krasnoyarsk region is Sopka Chernaya, an extinct volcano nicknamed Pyramid for its triangular shape with man-made masonry, discovered in 1993. In Rostov-on-Don, there is the Sanctuary of Arius, a unique structure that predates the Egyptian pyramids by 1,000 years and was built according to the principle of the golden ratio. Crimea is especially rich, where in 2001 7 pyramids were found located in a line between Sevastopol and Foros, supposedly 2,000 years older than the Egyptian ones. Their architecture is reminiscent of Tibetan and Mexican pyramids, indicating the existence of an ancient, advanced civilization. It's hard to believe that the Egyptian pyramids are not as ancient as we were previously told. Also, such finds confirm that the Egyptians were not the first to create such grandiose structures. Until now, humanity is racking its brains and trying to understand why people in ancient times built pyramidal structures all over the globe. Knights versus snails. Medieval manuscripts are not only sources of knowledge but also a real treasure trove of mysterious and funny illustrations. Among them, marginalia deserves special attention. Strange drawings on the margins of manuscripts. And one of the most curious plots that can be found in English and French books of the 13th, the 14th, the centuries is a battle between a knight and a snail. Why did the monks who copied the books need to depict such an absurd scene? One explanation is simple boredom. The monks amused themselves by decorating the pages with grotesque drawings, and gradually this became a kind of art. But such illustrations could also have hidden meanings. Perhaps the snail symbolized cowardice. Like a knight in armor, it hides in its shell. Some historians believe that this is a satire on the slowness of the aristocracy, or even a mockery of certain political groups. Be that as it may, these strange scenes still cause debate among researchers, and the battle between the knight and the snail remains one of the most mysterious medieval miniatures. Where did the ancient Egyptians' gods come from? Ancient Egypt continues to excite the minds of scientists with its secrets, one of which is the country of Punt. Unlike the mythical Atlantis and Agartha, Punt was a very real place, located somewhere in eastern Africa. The Egyptians sent trading expeditions there, bringing back goods that one could only dream of: precious trees, gold, ivory, and aromatic resins. The first mention of Punt dates back to the 26th century BC, during the time of Pharaoh Cheops. Expeditions continued for centuries, bringing untold riches to Egypt. An important step was the construction of a canal connecting the Nile and the Red Sea under Pharaoh Senusret III, which simplified the route to Punt. The exact location of Punt is still a matter of debate among scholars. There is an assumption that it was located in the area of modern Somalia, Djibouti, Eritrea, and Sudan, and could also cover the territory as far as southern Africa. Some researchers believe that Egyptian sailors could even reach the Cape of Good Hope. Legends and myths about Punt have been preserved in Egyptian culture as the homeland of the gods and ancestors of the Egyptians. The last known expedition to Punt was undertaken under Pharaoh Ramses III. After this, travel to the land of wealth ceased and Punt gradually turned into a legend. Today, archaeological research in Punt is complicated by the political situation in the region, making it one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of the ancient world. Relations between Egypt and Punt, as far as we know, have always remained peaceful, which is a unique fact in the history of interaction between ancient civilizations. Punt's trace still lives on in the name of the autonomous region of Somalia, Puntland. Mysterious Book of Thoth. In the world of archaeology, discoveries happen from time to time that change our understanding of the past. Today's story is the discovery of the Book of Thoth, a stunning artifact that was found in the bowels of the Luxor Temple by the famous Egyptian archaeologist Hassan Mahmud. Thoth in ancient Egyptian mythology is the god of writing, wisdom, and time. He is often depicted with the head of an ibis or as a baboon. It is believed that Thoth is the creator of hieroglyphs and numerous magical texts. The Book of Thoth is a scroll containing the prophecies and parables attributed to this god. The majestic scroll is made of high-quality papyrus and is extremely well preserved despite many centuries. But the most important thing in it is the content. In the process of studying this scroll, Hassan Mahmud discovered a mysterious message. He has knowledge hidden from the eyes. Whoever dares to read will gain the wisdom of the gods. This message seems to have been addressed to the king who owned the Luxor temple. This artifact is incredibly valuable for archaeologists and historians. It can shed light on ancient Egyptian ideas about the world, the gods, and also show how the ancient Egyptians interacted with these deities. The Book of Thoth is incredibly mystical. The opening of the scroll was a real revelation because its content and message allowed us to look into the depths of ancient Egyptian mythology, to touch the wisdom of a great civilization whose history is still shrouded in secrets. Beaded dress. Here is one of the rarest ancient Egyptian garments, a beaded dress dating back to around 2550 BC during the 4th dynasty. This was the time of the construction of the Great Pyramids, and such outfits were worn by noble women, perhaps even priestesses. The dress is made in the form of a mesh structure of hundreds of small faience beads, creating the effect of scales or fish skin. It was worn over a thin linen tunic, which made the image not only elegant but also symbolically significant. The Egyptians believed that such clothing could grant protection and favor from the gods. It is amazing that the dress has survived in this form for thousands of years. This is not just an item of clothing, but an artifact that gives us an idea of the fashion, traditions, and aesthetics of the ancient Egyptian elite. Today it is kept in a museum and is one of the most outstanding examples of ancient textile art. Sarcophagi. Archaeologists have discovered unique tombs and funerary masks that are as much as 4,500 years old, and they were found next to the pyramids of Giza in the heart of the ancient necropolis. Several tombs from the era of the Old Kingdom were found there, the oldest of which dates back to the 25th century BC. Ancient inscriptions and decorations have been preserved in it. In one of the tombs was Pehuenk, a senior court judge and priest of the goddess Mot. He directed the rituals of purification in the pyramidal temples of the kings Khafre, Userkaf, and Niuserre. The second inhabitant of the tomb is his relative Nui, a nobleman with 5 court titles and a priest in the temple of Khafra. The excavation began in August 2018, and in order to reach these tombs, they had to move about 450 cubic meters of sand. Some tombs were plundered in antiquity but were reused for burials in the 7th to 6th centuries BC. Thanks to this, amazing works of art, magnificent clay, and wooden funeral masks were found among the late wooden sarcophagi, and all this was found near the cemetery of the pyramid builders. This proves that the pyramids were built not by slaves, but by ordinary people who were buried next to their kings. Graphite phallus. And now another story about the phallus, this time Graphite 1. In northern Mongolia, at the archaeological site of Tolbor 21, scientists have discovered an artifact that is already 42,000 years old. And you know what? This is the oldest symbolic phallus in Eurasia. When Alexander Fedorchenko, a specialist in the study of traces of human activity, first saw the object under a microscope, he immediately realized that it looked like a phallus. But other scientists did not believe him at first. They thought that it was just an engraved stone. After doing research, they found that the item was broken and used as a pendant. An interesting fact, guys, the object is made of graphite, and the nearest deposit of this mineral is located at a distance of 100 kilometers from Tolbor 21. Here's a riddle for the detectives of archaeology. But the most important thing is that now this is the oldest image of the phallus in Eurasia and the only phallic pendant in the world from the Paleolithic era, discovered in a layer of earth that is already 42,000 years old. Scientist Yevgeny Rybin clarified that this discovery shows that already in those ancient times, gender signs, both male and female, played an important role in human symbolism. A curious discovery in Egypt. Two divers in Egypt have discovered unique artifacts from the Greco-Roman period, raising hundreds of ancient relics from the seabed. However, instead of handing over the finds to the authorities, they tried to keep them for themselves. The artifacts were found in Abu Shir Bay off the coast of Alexandria, in a place where the sunken cities of Heraklion and Canopus once stood. As a result of the police operation, 448 items were confiscated from the divers. 305 coins, 53 figurines, 41 axes, 14 bronze bowls, 12 spears, and even 3 heads from ancient statues. The coins are decorated with images of animals: lions, elephants, turtles, dolphins, as well as Pegasus, the legendary winged horse. Many of the bronze artifacts have become covered with a turquoise patina due to centuries spent underwater. According to the examination, the finds date back to the period from 500 BC to 400 AD, covering the reign of the Ptolemaic dynasty and the subsequent dominance of Rome. The divers are suspected of attempting to steal and possibly hide some of the artifacts. Ben Ben Stone. This amazing artifact inspired the Egyptians to create two of the greatest achievements of their architecture: the pyramids and obelisks. Imagine a pyramid-shaped sacred stone called a benben or pyramidion. Every day, the first rays of the rising sun fell on it, endowing everyone around with strength and enlightenment. This stone was kept in the religious center of Egypt, Heliopolis, where, according to the ancients, the creation of the world began. However, at one unknown point in history, the original benben stone disappeared. This stone was associated not only with the gods Atum and Ra, it was also associated with the Bennu bird, which, according to myths, screamed on the benben stone, announcing the beginning of the creation of the world. Through these connections, the benben stone became an integral part of the solar temples of ancient Egypt. The Egyptians covered it with gold, and the stone reflected the sun's rays, filling the temples with light. This stone became the prototype of the tops of obelisks and pyramids, which we can still observe while walking through the museums of the world. A piece of cake. On February 10, 1840, Queen Victoria married Prince Albert of Saxe-Coburg in Gotha. At their wedding, an impressive cake weighing about 136 kilograms was served. The three-tiered treat was decorated with miniature figurines of the bride and groom in Roman attire, as well as an exquisite retinue made of refined sugar, which was then a truly luxurious and rare product. The inside of the cake was generously soaked in alcohol and filled with lemon, elderberry, sugar, and dried fruit. However, there was a problem. Victoria was on a diet, and the guests, it seemed, were not so hungry as to overcome a cake weighing more than 100 weight. Therefore, at the end of the celebration, the Queen ordered that the cake be cut into small pieces, which were then placed in tin boxes and distributed to friends, family, and other honored guests. Thus began the tradition of giving guests pieces of the wedding cake, a tradition that even at the royal court took the form of a keepsake. Many owners of these souvenirs decided not to eat them because they were a valuable gift from the Queen herself. Some slices remained untouched and have survived to this day. Today, pieces of Victoria's wedding cake are true relics. Several of them are in the Royal Trust collection, and one such piece was sold at auction in 2016 for £1,500. If this seems like an impressive sum, it is worth noting that in 1998, part of the wedding cake of King Edward VIII and Wallis Simpson, dated 1937, was sold at Sotheby's for $29900. But surprisingly, Victoria's wedding cake is still edible thanks to its high alcohol content. Theoretically, it could be tried today, although it would most likely remain just a legend. A lavish, pointless event. Balingham is a small village in England, but it was here that one of the most lavish meetings in history took place 500 years ago. England's King Henry VIII and the French monarch Francis I held a grand celebration that went down in history as the Field of the Cloth of Gold. Officially, the meeting was supposed to strengthen the alliance of the two kings against Emperor Charles V, but in reality it became a competition in luxury. Henry built a giant tent palace of 10,000 square meters, the walls of which were brick at the base and painted to look like stone above. The roof resembled tiles, and at the entrance there were fountains from which red wine flowed. The celebration lasted 18 days, accompanied by feasts, tournaments, and masquerades. The kings were visited by 3,500 retinues, for whom 98,000 eggs, 2,200 sheep, and even exotic dishes like guinea pig and dolphin were prepared. But even amidst the luxury, rivalry prevailed. Henry challenged Francis to a fight and lost. Soon he entered into an alliance with Charles V, and a year later England was at war with France. The Field of the Cloth of Gold became a symbol of incredible extravagance that ruined the treasuries of both countries. Name of Jesus Christ. While studying the remains of a man from Sudan, scientists at the University of Warsaw discovered a religious tattoo with a Christian symbol. These remains were found near the Ghazali Monastery dating back to the Middle Ages. On the leg of the deceased, who passed away about 1,300 years ago, a tattoo was discovered depicting a chrisma, a monogram of the name of Jesus Christ created from the Greek letters chi and rho. In addition, the Alpha and Omega symbols were depicted nearby. This symbol first appeared in 324 AD during the reign of Emperor Constantine. Alpha and Omega are the beginning and ending letters of the Greek alphabet, symbolizing the idea of God as the beginning and end of everything. An interesting fact is that the tattoo is located on the right leg because since it is there, according to scientists, that a nail could have been nailed during the veneration of Christ. This religious marking indicates the man's Christian faith. However, it is not established whether he was a monk from the Ghazali Monastery, since his remains were found in a nearby cemetery reserved for local residents. According to the analysis, he was 35, 50 years old at the time of death. At the time, the region known as Nubia included parts of modern Egypt and Sudan, and Christianity was the main religion. Despite the fact that the remains were found 7 years ago, the unique tattoo was only recently discovered and is only the second known case of tattooing in medieval Nubia. Hippo tooth artifact. Archaeologists have discovered in Spain an ancient artifact made from a hippopotamus tooth. This find, dating back to the second quarter of the 3rd millennium BC, confirms the existence of trade links between the Pyrenees, Africa, and the Middle East 4,500 years ago. The rare object was found among artifacts from the settlement of Bobila Madorel in Barcelona, which belonged to the Veraza culture. The length of the find is about 10 centimeters. One end is pointed, the other is broken off. Scientists assume that this is a tool, possibly related to textile production. Analysis showed that the artifact was made not from a fossilized, but from a fresh hippopotamus tooth. Traces of red pigment mixed with organic matter, possibly animal fat or egg white, were preserved on its surface. Pyramids when they were built. The pyramids we see today are far from what they looked like when they were created. You don't believe it? Let's dive into history. Ancient engineers used an astonishing 6.1 million tons of limestone to erect the Great Pyramid of Giza. The largest and oldest of all, it was created by order of Pharaoh Khufu. But what do you think it looked like before? No, not sandy brown. It was covered with a shiny layer of limestone. But alas, over time, many facing stones were reused. This probably began already during the reign of Tutankhamun and continued for many centuries. Add to this the earthquake of 1303 AD, which jolted them a little. Today, the pyramids still amaze us with their durability. For example, the Pyramid of Khafre, which even retains some of its original facing stones. It looks like one peak is wedged into another. It's amazing. On top of the pyramids were the so-called pyramidions covered with electrum, a shiny mixture of gold and silver. Alas, most of them have been lost over time, but some examples can still be seen in museums. Buddha Iron Man. This is an amazing find that has shocked scientists around the world. This statue, about 24 centimeters high and weighing 10 kilograms, was created from a fragment of a meteorite. The specimen represents the image of the Buddhist god Vaishravana, who symbolizes protection and wealth. The origin of the statue has been carefully studied by researchers. Based on the results of the analysis, it was determined that the material for the creation was taken from the Chinga meteorite, which fell on the border of Mongolia and Siberia about 15,000 years ago. It is believed that the statue was created in the 11th century AD on the territory of Tibet. It is amazing how the ancient masters, without even suspecting the cosmic origin of the material, were able to so skillfully process and transform it into a work of art. In 1938, Ernst Schaefer's expedition, funded by Nazi Germany, discovered the statue in Tibet and brought it back to Germany. Subsequently, its origin and material remained a subject of controversy and mystery for a long time, until recent scientific research revealed its amazing history. Today, Iron Man stands not only as a majestic work of art, but also as a testament to the unique combination of nature and human artistry. A once-in-a-lifetime experience. 2 years ago, David Dunn from the British town of Sapcoda, Leicestershire, took up metal detecting to spend more time outdoors. One day, his intuition told him to return to a pasture where he had already been. After several hours of searching, the device gave a weak signal. In the ground, David found 2 Roman coins, and then, having dug 60 centimeters deeper, he extracted as many as 50 ancient silver coins. The oldest of them date back to the reign of Carausius, who ruled Britain during the late Roman Empire. The rest were minted under Electus, Diocletian, and Maximian, meaning the hoard is at least 1,700 years old. Such finds happen once in a lifetime. The coins will go to auction and are expected to bring David about $1,800. However, he says that money is not the main thing for him. Mausoleum of the Ancient Roman Era. Let's go on a virtual journey to the center of London, where archaeologists have stumbled upon a unique find. A mausoleum from the era of the Roman Empire and in excellent condition. Imagine in the heart of modern London, in the Southwark area, scientists have discovered a Roman mausoleum, the walls and floor of which are surprisingly well preserved. During the time when Britain was a Roman colony, this place most likely served as the last refuge for the wealthy inhabitants of Londinium. And after the restoration, we will be able to see it as a permanent exhibition. All this action took place under the strict guidance of specialists from the London Archaeological Museum. And the most interesting thing is that this is not just another mausoleum. This is the best preserved Roman mausoleum with a unique mosaic floor and traces of steps. The most incredible thing is that under the first mosaic floor, archaeologists discovered another one with a similar pattern. Perhaps at one time they decided to renovate or even rebuild the mausoleum. It seems to have been quite an imposing building, perhaps even 2-story. That's just in the tomb, strange, but they did not find sarcophagi. But more than 100 coins, fragments of ceramics, tiles, and metal were found. And also in the same area, in 2022, a giant mosaic was discovered, the largest in the last 50 years. Now researchers are using 3D modeling to determine the exact age of the mausoleum and perhaps even find out who was its owner. Like alive. In the famous Batagai crater, which is called the Gates of Hell, the amazingly well-preserved remains of a woolly mammoth calf have been discovered. The female, named Yana, lived more than 50,000 years ago and probably died from a fatal back injury during the Ice Age. At the time of her death, the baby mammoth was about a year old. Its height at the withers was 1.2 m, and its weight was about 180 kilograms. Among the 7 known baby woolly mammoths, Yana stands out for her exceptional preservation. Her trunk, lips, ears, and eye sockets remain practically intact, which is a rarity. According to scientist Maxim Cheprasov, the mammoth's head was perfectly preserved, but the back of the body was damaged, possibly due to a fall. The front half of the baby mammoth was already half thawed out of the permafrost when local residents discovered it. The Batagaiski crater is considered the largest permafrost failure in the world, and its melting releases about 5,000 tons of carbon annually. A 42,170-year-old Lena horsefoal was found here. Why is it forbidden to climb the pyramid? The top stone of the pyramid is a kind of cherry on top, the final touch in its construction. Given the harmony and beauty of the pyramid, it is unlikely that its builders would have left it unfinished. There is a theory that the top stone was made of gold and was removed from the top sometime in the distant past, but it's hard to believe given the height of the building, more than 140 meters. Spanish explorer Miguel Perez Sanchez suggests that a huge spherical stone, symbolizing the Eye of Horus, was placed on top of the pyramid. It could serve as a tribute to Sirius, the brightest star in the sky, and its size and shape were designed with mathematics, geometry, and astronomy in mind. There is one interesting story associated with the top of the pyramid and Sir Siemens. Some time ago, the British inventor Sir Siemens was at the top of the pyramid, and as he was about to celebrate his achievement with a glass of wine, when suddenly he encountered a surprise. He got electrocuted. The Arab guides, seeing how Siemens was electrocuted, got scared and tried to catch him, but Siemens, pointing a bottle at them, hit them with a powerful electric current. Since then, it has been forbidden to climb to the top of the pyramid. Unidentified head. Heads from Leidenburg is a set of clay heads discovered in South Africa. They are dated 500 AD and are the oldest known examples of Iron Age art south of the equator. In 1957, as a 10-year-old boy, Ludwig von Basing found these heads on his father's farm. A total of 7 heads were found. 2 of them are large enough to put on a child's head, the other 5 are half the size. They are all different, but each has something in common. For example, clay neck rings, which perhaps symbolized prosperity. Perhaps they were worn as masks during rituals, or they were attached to something during ceremonies. Birth certificate. Here is one of the oldest birth certificates created over 4,000 years ago in the Sumerian civilization. It consists of 2 clay tablets, one covered in cuneiform writing and the other with a footprint of a child. In ancient Mesopotamia, such tablets were used as official documents confirming the birth of a person. The cuneiform text probably contains the child's name, the names of the parents, the date of birth, and perhaps even astrological predictions. And the footprint served as a kind of personal signature, a unique way to identify the baby. This artifact shows how developed the bureaucratic systems were in Sumer. Even then, people understood the importance of documentation, and such records could be used to confirm inheritance or social rights. This is a real window into the ancient world, which seems so distant, but in some ways is very similar to ours. Pyramids of Meroe. Everyone knows the huge pyramids of Egypt, but Sudan has the largest collection of these amazing ancient structures. What a twist, huh? Sudan is often associated with civil wars and disease, but this country is a treasure trove for lovers of culture and history. At the top of the list are the pyramids of Meroe. They were built in Nubia, one of the first civilizations of ancient Africa, and served as a place of eternal rest for the last pharaohs of the ancient city of Meroe. Over 200 pyramids, located on 3 sites, were built as royal graves for 40 kings and queens who ruled the kingdom of Nubia Kush for more than 1,000 years. This period is known as the Meroitic period. Unlike the pyramids of Giza, the pyramids of Meroe are built of granite and sandstone and are characterized by small bases and steep slopes. Many artifacts are found inside the tombs: ceramics, glass, quivers with arrows. Even despite the destruction, the pyramids retain their magic, especially at dawn and dusk. Bas-reliefs depicting scenes from ancient Egyptian mythology indicate a strong cultural influence. A brewery from the time of Egypt's first rulers. Archaeologists have discovered the world's oldest brewery located in the necropolis of Abydos, Egypt. The discovery not only sheds light on early brewing technology, but also helps us understand how resources were managed during the construction of the pyramids. The complex consists of 8 massive installations up to 20 meters long. Each of them contains 2 rows of 40 vessels that were used to heat a mixture of grain and water, the classic process of brewing beer. Scientists date the brewery to the era of Pharaoh Narmer, who was considered the founder of the First Dynasty. Dr. Adams, who led the study, called the discovery industrial-scale production and noted that it shows a high level of labor organization in ancient Egypt. The ability to manage the mass distribution of resources and organize labor allowed the Egyptians to build grandiose structures, including the pyramids. In addition, beer played an important role in rituals. The large-scale production at Abydos indicates its use in sacrifices, ceremonies, and rituals, confirming its importance in the development of Egyptian royal power. Nazis and ancient giants. Among the many occult and pseudoscientific theories that the Nazis actively promoted through the Ahnenerbe organization, one of the most mysterious is the idea of the existence of ancient races of giants. The Nazis believed that these giants were the ancestors of the Aryans and possessed enormous physical strength, wisdom, and high technology. They were considered an example of the superiority of the Aryan race, which the Nazis sought to prove. The goal of the Ahnenerbe expedition to Tibet, South America, and Scandinavia was to find archaeological evidence of the existence of giants. These searches were part of a larger program aimed at finding artifacts that could reinforce the Nazi ideology of the purity and superiority of the Aryan race. There is a version that in some expeditions the remains of giant creatures were found: skeletons, skulls, and bones of enormous size. These finds were supposedly to be used in Nazi propaganda to support ancient myths about a great race from which they believed the Aryans originated. However, no reliable scientific evidence of these finds has ever been published, and much of the information about such expeditions remains at the level of legends and rumors. The idea of ancient giants fit well with the mythology on which the Nazi ideology was built, associated with the search for Aryan roots and the revival of ancient semi-mythical civilizations. Metal rod. How can this mysterious artifact be explained? Inside a stone found in the Meizong Mountains of China, collector Jilin Wang discovered a metal rod with a thread resembling a screw. But the strangest thing is that the hard rock formed around it, which suggests that the find could be millions of years old. Some have suggested that this is a meteorite with an alien artifact inside. Others believe that it is an ancient man-made object that, for unknown reasons, ended up in the ground and turned into a fossil. Skeptics believe that this is simply a rare natural formation and the screw is just a fossilized marine organism. But the most interesting thing is that similar finds have already been found in different parts of the world. Coincidence or evidence of an ancient, unknown technology? For now, this artifact remains one of the most mysterious archaeological riddles. Sistine Chapel of Ancient Egypt. Here is one of the most stunning tombs of ancient Egypt, the tomb of Queen Nefertari, wife of Ramses II. It is over 3,200 years old and is often called the Sistine Chapel of Egypt because of its incredible paintings. Unlike many other tombs, this one amazes not only with its scale, but also with its bright, almost untouched colors. On the walls are scenes from the Book of the Dead, images of gods and Nefertari herself going to the afterlife. The Egyptians believed that such paintings would help the deceased pass the trials and achieve eternal life. The detail is amazing. Fine lines, intricate patterns, vivid colors, all this makes the tomb a real masterpiece. Unfortunately, many sections of the walls have been damaged by time, but restorers have managed to preserve its grandeur. Today, this tomb is considered one of the most beautiful in the Valley of the Queens and a true window into the world of ancient Egyptian art. Mercenary Commander's Tomb. We are going to the necropolis of Abusir, not far from Cairo. The tomb, which we will study, belongs to the beginning of the 5th century BC and is very unusual. It is a shaft-type tomb. Here is our main hero of today's video, Wahibra Meronite. This guy apparently was a commander of mercenary warriors and it seems died suddenly, since his tomb was not fully completed. The amazing double sarcophagus found in the depths of this mine is directed from east to west. The outer sarcophagus is made of massive blocks of white limestone, while the inner sarcophagus is made of basalt covered with ancient spells from the Book of the Dead that help the deceased overcome the path to the other world. Unfortunately, the tomb was plundered in antiquity, and all that archaeologists managed to find were 2 amulets, a heart scarab and a headrest for a mummy. According to the ideas of the ancient Egyptians, they helped the spirit of the deceased to maintain clarity of consciousness in another world. Interestingly, they also found some grave goods left after the robbery: faience figurines, incense vessels, and fragments of the Book of the Dead. So guys, it looks like Wahibra Meronith was a very important person. Gold torque. In the UK, an amateur with a metal detector discovered a 3,000-year-old gold torque. The ancient piece, found in a field by the River Stour in Essex, is the first such artifact to be recorded in the region. Torques are massive gold necklaces that symbolize the high status of their owner. The piece dates back to the Middle Bronze Age. Analysis has shown that the piece is 75% gold, 18% silver, and contains a small amount of copper. The 14.7 centimeters piece is made from a rectangular gold rod into which the craftsman cut 4 deep grooves and then twisted the metal, giving it a special shape. According to ancient Finn specialist Laurie Rogerson, the artifact looks as if it was made yesterday. Working with such a soft metal required a high level of skill, as twisting too hard could tear the gold. Lycurgus Cup. The Lycurgus Cup is a unique artifact of antiquity, combining high art and complex technical implementation. This Roman glass goblet dates back to the 4th century AD and serves as a striking example of the ancient craftsmanship of glassmaking. The peculiarity of the cup lies in its ability to change color under different lighting conditions. In reflected light, the cup appears green, but when illuminated, it takes on a rich ruby red hue. This effect is achieved thanks to gold and silver nanoparticles in the glass. The image on the cup is based on Greek mythology and tells the story of Lycurgus, who tried to kill Ambrosia, the son of the god of wine Dionysus. The image shows how the vines generated by the vineyard entangle the body of Lycurgus, making it impossible for him to move. The Lycurgus cup is now kept in the British Museum. It serves not only as a magnificent example of ancient art, but also as evidence of the high level of knowledge of ancient artisans in the fields of chemistry and optics. Rare giant book. Here is one of 12 giant books from the 18th century written in Spanish. Its size is impressive, almost a meter in length. These books were created for religious ceremonies and contain detailed scripts for the services. Leather binding, wooden covers, pages made of tanned animal skin. All this made the book not only durable but also a symbol of the greatness of the church. Such manuscripts were intended for use in churches where priests and choirs could read the text from afar. That is why the letters are so large. Today, this rarity is kept in the National Autonomous University of Mexico. Scientists and restorers carefully study it, trying to preserve it in its original form. These books are a real window into the past, allowing you to see what liturgical texts looked like and what the attitude to writing was in the era of colonial Latin America. Meteor finds in tombs. Even 2,000 years before the beginning of the Iron Age, the Egyptians had already learned how to work with meteoric iron. In ancient times, the sky was clearer and our ancestors were guided by the stars and followed the falling meteorites. When meteors fell without burning up in the atmosphere, meteorites were obtained, space rocks. Scientists have confirmed that the 3 small beads found in the tomb were used in jewelry in 3200 BC and were made from iron that comes from meteorites. The ancient Egyptians pierced holes in it in the same way as they did with other precious stones. Then they created precious necklaces. Interestingly, meteorites were as valuable to them as precious stones and metals. Skin and scales on an ancient skeleton. Paleontologists have studied the remarkably well-preserved skeleton of a plesiosaur found in Germany back in 1940. The fossil lay in a museum garden for decades until scientists discovered in 2020 that it had preserved soft tissue, skin, and even cell nuclei. This discovery helps to better understand the appearance of ancient marine reptiles that lived 183 million years ago. The body of the plesiosaur was sealed in the Posidonia shale, due to which the skin survived along the spine and on the flipper. It turned out to be thicker than previously thought and resembled the skin of sea turtles. Microscopic analysis showed that the tissue structure corresponds to modern reptiles. The most amazing find was the scales on the flipper. They are similar to the scales of snakes and lizards and could have helped the plesiosaur either when moving along the bottom or when maneuvering in the water. Scientists compare the appearance of this reptile to a hybrid of a leatherback and a green turtle. The appearance of long-necked plesiosaurs is still debated, but this discovery provides the first real data on what they looked like. Melted steps. The stairs at the Temple of Hathor in Dendera raise many questions among archaeologists and researchers. These steps, located in one of the best-preserved temples of ancient Egypt, look as if they were exposed to incredibly high temperatures, which could have led to their deformation and partial melting. The surface of the steps shows unusual bends and recessed areas that are not typical for the normal wear of stone structures. There are various theories to explain this phenomenon. One hypothesis suggests that the steps could have been damaged as a result of some unknown thermal impact. For example, ritual fires or processes associated with ancient technologies. Another theory points to possible construction errors. If the stones for the steps were formed directly on site from a liquid solution, then the interruption of the hardening process could have led to an irregular shape and softness of the material. Scientists are still studying this phenomenon, adding another mystery to the rich heritage of ancient Egypt. Secret Project Bell. According to various sources, this was a top-secret program aimed at creating technology ahead of its time. The bell was a bell-shaped device consisting of a metal shell filled with a strange substance called red mercury. Tests were conducted in a remote laboratory in Poland near Wrocław. The research surrounding this project covered a wide range of topics, from anti-gravity to time travel. Some theories claim that the Nazis were trying to create a device that could change the outcome of the war by using advanced physical phenomena such as the distortion of space and time. However, the results of the experiments remain unknown, and after the war, traces of the bell disappeared. The secrecy surrounding the project gave rise to many rumors. Some believed that the device was evacuated to South America or fell into the hands of the Allies. Whether the bell actually existed remains an open question. An artifact with a secret inscription. British teenager Lucas Cunliffe made an archaeological discovery while walking with his father in northern England. Using a metal detector, he found the pommel of a medieval sword that is over 700 years old. Experts say this late 13th century artifact is a real rarity. The bronze hilt is engraved with an inscription in Latin, Jesus, King of the Jews. Historical weapons expert Paul MacDonald noted that there are only 7 such finds, and all of them were made in Scotland. Historians suggest that this sword was used during the War of Scottish Independence. It may even be associated with the reign of Robert the Bruce, the legendary King of Scotland. Flute with hawk voice. Now let's go to Israel, to the site of the ancient settlement of Ain Mala. Here, under a layer of earth older than 12,000 years, 7 unique flutes made from thin bird bones were discovered. Imagine, these tools were created by our ancestors from the bones of birds of prey. Moreover, scientists are sure that the choice of bones and the location of the holes in them are not accidental. With their help, you can extract sounds very similar to the cries of birds of prey. According to researchers, these flutes were not musical instruments, but were used for hunting. Ain Malaha is an ancient settlement of the Natufians, the first hunter-gatherers who decided to settle in one place but did not give up hunting, fishing, and collecting fruits and plants, and they even learned to engage in agriculture and cattle breeding. Ain Malaha is near Hula Lake, where migratory birds stop to rest. Based on the finds, local residents actively hunted waterfowl wintering on the lake. These flutes had from 1 to 4 holes, which, like in modern flutes, were clamped with fingers. Some even had a mouthpiece. And around the holes there are a lot of scratches and marks, proving that the tools were actively used. The researchers conducted an experiment and made the same flutes from duck bones. The sounds they made turned out to be very similar to the cries of birds of prey, kestrel and sparrowhawk. Presumably, with the help of these sounds, hunters attracted birds and then used their claws and feathers for decorations. Jade cicada. Here is a jade cicada created during the Western Zhou dynasty. This artifact is not just a decoration, it had a deep symbolic meaning. In Chinese culture, the cicada was considered a symbol of rebirth and immortality, and jade was a stone of eternity. Such a figurine could be placed in the mouth of the deceased before burial, believing that it would help the soul pass into the afterlife and be reborn. Traces of red paint found on the artifact are also important. Red symbolized protection and good luck. The finest carving demonstrates the high level of skill of ancient Chinese artisans. Note the eyes, folded paws, and patterns that give the figurine an almost mystical look. Such objects were part of rituals and reflected the religious beliefs of people of that era. Ancient leather boot. The next find was found in Kent, UK. An incredible discovery has been made here, part of a 3,000-year-old leather boot, possibly the oldest shoe ever found on British soil. Quite by accident on the beach, a local archaeologist stumbled upon this shoe. He could not even imagine that this is a real treasure of the Bronze Age. To confirm his assumption, he sent the find to Scotland for radiocarbon analysis. After that, he got the answer from them that the shoe is really from the late Bronze Age. As the archaeologist said, this is a real rarity because textiles rarely survive thousands of years. Another interesting detail, our find is the smallest Bronze Age shoe in the world. The sole is only 7 centimeter. According to scientists, this shoe was worn by a toddler aged 3 years. Now researchers are trying to establish what animal skin the shoes were made from, and after all the scientific research, it will go to the British Museum. Did you know that up to this point, the oldest shoe in the UK was considered a 2,000-year-old find from the Somerset Quarry? However, now we have a new record holder. Gold jewelry. Here are exquisite gold ear jewelry pieces created in the 1st century BC during the Satavahana dynasty in Andhra Pradesh, India. These pieces are an example of the outstanding craftsmanship of ancient goldsmiths who worked with gold using complex granulation and embossing techniques. The jewelry pieces are massive, curved, and richly decorated. They feature images of animals such as horses and lions, which symbolize strength, power, and protection in Indian culture. The detail is astounding. Every bead, every line is executed with incredible precision. Earrings like these were worn by noble women and perhaps even royalty. Today, these artifacts are a priceless legacy of ancient Indian jewelry art. The Sphinx was not built by people. A recent discovery by a team of scientists from New York University radically changes our perception of the history of the Great Sphinx of Giza. Contrary to the generally accepted belief that the monument was carved by the ancient Egyptians, a new theory argues that the Sphinx is the result of natural forces. Researchers paid attention to yardangs, natural sculptures formed by erosion in desert conditions, reminiscent of animals or people in their contours. Such formations are typical for archaeological zones with a similar climate, including the territory of Egypt. In experiments simulating erosion in the laboratory, scientists have proven that when exposed to wind and water, soft rock can form figures remarkably reminiscent of a sphinx. So perhaps the ancient Egyptians just polished and complemented the already existing natural form, giving it clearer features. This study opens a new page in understanding the processes of formation of archaeological sites and the role of nature in the art of antiquity. Ancient Egyptian bread. The bread, estimated to be between 3,369 and 3,406 years old, was found in the tomb of an architect who served Pharaoh Amenhotep III. The bread is an amazing example of how food was preserved thanks to the advanced mummification techniques used by the ancient Egyptians. The Egyptians mummified not only their bodies, but also the food they believed the dead could use in the afterlife. The process involved treating the food with salt, drying it slowly, binding it, and coating it with resin to protect it from deterioration. The loaves show traces of their characteristic texture and shape, confirming their origin and ritual role. The bread was a symbolic and practical preparation for life after death, reflecting the Egyptians' deep belief that they would need everything they had on Earth in the afterlife. Leap Castle. Leap Castle, located 3 kilometers from the city of Roscrea, Ireland, is considered the most sinister place in the country. Built around 1250, it became home to the bloodthirsty O'Carroll clan. Betrayals, murders, and tortures took place here, and numerous ghosts still roam its halls. The history of the castle began with a tragedy. 2 brothers from the O'Bannon clan argued for power and decided to jump off a cliff to determine the winner. The survivor became the leader of the clan, and the castle was named Bannon's Leap. Later, the fortress was captured by the O'Carrolls, notorious for their cruelty. In 1532, during Mass, one of the O'Carrolls killed his brother, a priest, right at the altar. Since then, his ghost wanders through the bloody chapel, from the windows of which light sometimes comes. In 1922, workers found an underground pit in the castle with the remains of 150 people. In the Middle Ages, prisoners were thrown here and simply forgotten. Some of the ghosts of the castle are friendly. For example, Emily is a girl who died after falling from the fortress wall. Eyewitnesses say that they see her fall but disappear right before the ground. However, there is a much more sinister entity, the Elemental, an ancient spirit that was possibly summoned by the Druids. It appears rarely, but is considered the most dangerous inhabitant of the castle. Today, the castle has been partially restored, but its dark history is alive. Tours are held here, and many guests leave Leap with the feeling that someone was watching them. Would you like to visit a haunted castle? Could you spend at least one night in the castle alone? Write in the comments under the video and don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Thanks for watching. Bye everyone.